is I wish I'd done it sooner. Almost like homeschooling is like a warm hug that she wasn't getting in school. It's taking some time to get a routine going, but the transition in general for her and I think for us has been great.
I think there was some uncertainty in the beginning and a new routine, having like an organized checklist, a daily plan, and building a routine has been super nice. She wakes up looking forward to listen to the news, which I think is it's like wild, and that was not a thing before. So transition's been actually easier than I expected for sure.
Yeah. I want to let you start on this one because you had a way bigger fear than I did.
My biggest fear with starting was whether or not we were even going to be able to assist at all or have oversight or really help her get educated from the home. My brother was homeschooled. My mom's approach was, let's just not do any schooling and let's go through life, and you're not going to school anymore, because he had a hard time. So that was my view of, oh, I don't know this, but that being my fear, I feel like that's not what kind of came to fruition. It was like structure. There's curriculum plans out there that are actually not the cookie cutter plans that the school has, and that we can tailor this to some things that maybe she's interested in. My biggest fear was us not being able to accommodate her learning, especially with the ADHD, and her not being able to really kind of get through and make forward progress. Like, was it going to be worse? And that was not the case.
My only fear transitioning from outside school to homeschooling was being able to keep her on track. As Chris mentioned, she's got ADHD, she's like all over the place. And we both work full time, and I work 12-hour shifts. So, I'm like, oh my gosh, the days I work, like, forget about me being even able to hold her like accountable for the checklist that we created together. But my excitement to curate her own learning experience was much greater than the small amount of fear that I had.
Wanting to actually read and listen to news over breakfast, I think is really cool. Like, as a kid, I really liked the news and financial things. As a teenager, looking at the stock market forecasts, and I felt like I was one of those odd ducks. And I don't think kids these days really look at the news. I don't think it's very common. So that was an awesome surprise. And then the thing that would follow that just as close is her interest in learning a foreign language.
Oh, that's huge.
In such a short time. She wants to do it. We'll be in the car on the way to sports, and I'll look over, and it's not texting friends, it's not doing something that maybe isn't good for mental health, like social media or things like that. She's literally like doing an activity to help better her Spanish, and I can already see a huge difference very quick. So that's been like a real big surprise for me.
It's like she just has a different level of confidence and self-responsibility in the learning process that has literally never existed until we switched to homeschooling. Also surprising is like when she goes through the checklist and I ask her about it, how she can confidently tell me what the activities and what she learned today and what she's working on. We want her to do like 2 jobs or chores per day, and we have a list that she can choose from, take more responsibility in life. And before I can even ask her, like, what 2 jobs did you do today? She's like, oh, and I already did this, and I did this, and I did that. And that's surprising in a great way. So I love the idea that you're like, let her get so good at that foundational piece of, that particular subject, so that when she kind of catches up to where she was in her school, it's way more ingrained, right? And she'll have a lot more confidence. I created a very elaborate spreadsheet that she has to check off every day. And I will admit to spending hours creating the spreadsheet and going back and editing it. There have been quite a few additions already to the spreadsheet, but being able to really customize it to her own learning experience, like in what she has interest in, and also maybe a little piece of what we would like her to learn. You don't have that control in a public or even a private school setting.
I think we try our best to stick to the plan that you created, which I think is awesome, and it creates that routine. We'll shift it a little bit. Collins surfs competitively and really wants to be able to get more time in the water and practice. Socially, she's had some challenges fitting in, and it's tough to find kids in the area that are girls her age that know how to surf. So with that, she can't surf alone for water safety, so that part of that is like the adults being able to actually carve out time to bring to the beach, the conditions. So that would be an example of maybe she's supposed to be doing a subject during a certain time. If I look and I can see that I could get her to a beach and the conditions are appropriate, that's PE. Then as soon as we're done with that, we come back and kind of refocus. Okay, we're gonna go with personal finance. Let's make sure we make forward progress.
I love the flexibility of that. I love the flexibility of that because it's something, one, she needs physical education. It's the flexibility in the schedule with that has really been awesome.
That's the addicting part of homeschooling.
The flexibility.
Well, I think at first, like during the transitional phase, I'd say like maybe a week before she started homeschooling, I think you could tell she even had like a fear, and she typically has anxiety as it is. Like, I'm not gonna be in school anymore, like the reality hit. But yeah, I think once she started and kind of started making headway and realizing, oh wow, you can do these things in homeschool, and there's other kids that are like me that I have things in common with in the neighborhood that also are doing schooling this way. I feel like there was a really good shift, and also some of those things that we were concerned about, and probably her as well, with social aspects, we're able to accommodate those with the sports teams. Socially, I think it's been better for her since starting homeschooling. She's able to actually focus on learning the academics, and then that social piece comes in the late afternoons and evenings, where those like the social and giggling and making those friendships. So I think it's been good overall.
But I do feel like we pulled her out of school, her confidence was in the dumps. And of course, I think it's just a process. It's almost like a healing process. I even have used the terms that we were almost like the first week or two where we're just gonna kind of like unschool, to just kind of release some of that baggage. And even though it's still in we're still working on her confidence, I feel like I see a lot more of it. I feel like I'm seeing more windows of positive self-confidence. And I think, personally, a lot of it has to do with just feeling empowered and taking responsibility for her own education. I think just naturally builds up the confidence. So I have definitely noticed that.
I don't feel that we had clear visibility of any gaps necessarily. Even in a small school that she was in, she would often say like, I really can't concentrate, there's so much goofing off, the teacher spends so much time telling everybody to be quiet and put your phones away, saying, well, now we've removed like 95% of those outside distractions. The Spanish is the easiest one to kind of hone in on, like that the upward trajectory in learning Spanish is wild and just totally different.
In the math too, like she's self-grading and she's able to realize like, and now I see why I got this problem wrong because I just missed this. And she's able to articulate that to me without me even having to ask. She's bringing that information forward. And so that's, again, contributing to her confidence and to just her ability to just be more independent. I mean, she was in public school, then went to a private school. And I feel like in both of those settings, she just got like lost in the sauce. Even though there seems to be like almost less oversight, just because we're both parents that work full time. I feel like, I just feel like she's way more focused and she has more personal clarity on where she needs more support, if you will.
I'm a huge advocate of the personal finance thing. The Dave Ramsey personal finance thing, it's just not taught, like basic like debt management and not spending more than you make and long-term retirement. And I think it's awesome. There's a homeschool piece that she's going through videos and reading through this workbook. And I can ask her some pretty basic questions that a lot of folks that have a lot of money, that make a lot of money per year, can't answer. There's a lot of people that have really big salaries that don't. They never learn that. It's not necessarily taught in the schools. I've heard about this. she loves it. And she says, even sometimes at first I thought they were a little silly in the way they explain things. However, the simple way they explain it so I can understand it is so much better than what the math teacher at the school was, whereas definitely heard positive feedback about the videos that are with the math curriculum.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
she likes it. The way that it's structured really works for her brain. I think in general, I've actually had other moms reach out to me since transitioning to homeschool with teenage girls, middle school age girls, saying, I'm thinking about transitioning my daughter because of X, Y, and Z problems, which I can definitely relate to. And there's so many programs out there. There's very structured programs, but I'm really glad that we decided to go the route to just kind of curate it and to pick certain curriculum items because we felt it best met her personality and the way that she learned. And even though it was a little overwhelming while putting it all together, now that it's like in movement and she's in it all, I just love that we were able to totally personalize it to her. Talk to somebody who's done it, talk to somebody who knows how to do this. And luckily, because I know you, but for anyone else that's thinking about homeschooling their children, like post in like parenting groups in your neighborhood, reach out to your community, find other parents that are doing what you want to do, and see if they've had time, like you did with me, to sit down and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and here are other options. That was huge. And it also helped us like be able to see other parents, particularly you, like doing it. We're like, okay, well, I mean, she's homeschooling 3 kids. We can homeschool 1. We can make this happen. But then all the other resources, other families in the community who do homeschool, and how there's other parents that like host classes once a week based on certain subjects. Like I am sure that if you're trying to homeschool your kid in any city in the United States, you can reach out to your local community and you can find those resources.
I think in a positive way. I think we really, some of her challenges and struggles really weighs heavy on Bree and I. And when you watch your kid not, struggling socially, but then because of the social struggles, not able to focus in class, and then all of a sudden everything is just going downhill. If I were to look back and tell myself one thing, would be not every kid needs to fit in a cookie cutter molded education program. And I think society really pushes that. It's almost ingrained in everybody. You have to go to this public middle school, the elementary, the high school, and everybody needs to go through this conveyor belt process.
Yeah.
And that's not true. I'm really glad that we're in a position to be able to let her do this and kind of support this process.
Honestly, the big thing is I wish I'd done it sooner. We watched our child in middle school struggle for too long. And I think it was because we felt these were our only options. Public school, okay, or pay for private school, and we tried both and it didn't work. And I just wish from the first 6 months in public middle school when it wasn't working, that we had considered homeschooling them. That is the one thing I would have done differently, is thought of this as a option at the first sign of this isn't working for her. It gives me goosebumps. And I kind of wish I could go back in time and have pulled the trigger and done this sooner. Anyone who is watching this, I guess what I would say is that if you're feeling that nudge, and if you are feeling like the setting that your child is in is not working, you're feeling that for a reason. Don't just sit with it and continue to let your child and you as parents suffer, because we have the ability to take control of our children's education. And that is a really powerful tool that I think most people take for granted.